My name is Joe Perekupka. I'm the CEO of FreeSpira Incorporated. We are a digital therapeutic medical device company that delivers a treatment directly to the patient's home. We have currently 2 FDA indications focused on panic disorder in the broader category, panic attacks, and PTSD. Prior to that, I've been in the mental health space for about a decade now, fell into it with another startup organization prior to joining this one, and really just, became very passionate about it. I've seen the devastating impact that mental health can have, not only on the individual, but the family unit itself. And really as we look at what occurred through the pandemic and the spotlight that was shown upon the huge health inequities in the current healthcare system, the mental health space seems to be impacted more than any other segment. So our goal is to really help, utilize our technology to help bridge the gap and provide and fill in some of the pitfalls surrounding access to care for many patients. So next slide, please. We are actually a mission-driven organization. Everybody in the organization has either been impacted directly or indirectly through some of the challenges around anxiety disorder specifically, or the life-impairing behavioral health disorders overall. And it makes a big difference because of the challenges that you face in trying to get traction in the commercial marketplace. So as we look at the next slide, so as we kind of go into the next slide, I think what's important to understand is if you look at where we're at from an executive perspective, we're a 10-year-old organization, and I'll share with you some recent highlights. But we've won several different awards. One of the most recent awards that we're really proud of is Fast Company recently announced that we're one of the 10 most innovative medical device companies around the world. And with that being said, hey, Marty, can you advance? I'm sorry.
No worries.
So, okay, yeah. So you can see here some of the critical, some of the chief accomplishments that we've actually achieved. One of the first awards, and where we got our start, was Highmark Health is one of the 5 largest Blue Cross Blue Shield organizations in the country. We're part of the VITAL program, which was a validated program that brings in novel technologies, and they do both the health economic research as well as clinical outcomes. We were the first to graduate that program, which launched us into the commercial space. Next slide. So if we take a look here, there's a lot on this page, but what we're really, it really gives us a lot of credence in the marketplace, obviously, is from a clinical data perspective. When we built out our clinical evidence generation platform, we saw the FDA as a waypoint, right? The end goal is to get reimbursement. So as we're building out that evidence generation plan, we got through FDA clearance, and then we moved on to bringing real-world data to the marketplace and publishing it so that we could get better reimbursement from health insurance and payer landscape. We have over 5,000 patients now treated with FreeSpira, and our first real-world paper actually was published just this year, which encompassed about 1,600 real-world patients. Our clinical outcomes were identical in the real world to what we put forth in our pivotal clinical trials. But on the right-hand side, I think we actually offer compelling cost savings to health plans. So we're actually demonstrating significant reductions in total medical costs associated with patients that are treated with our product versus those who are not. And then our member engagement strategy is incredibly unique. But the fact that we're engaging patients in such a unique way actually drives us to incredible adherence rates. Greater than 75% patients are adherent to our treatment for the entire process. Next, please. So let's set the stage. How big is this marketplace? Unfortunately, panic and PTSD are often overshadowed by some of the larger mental health disorders, like depression and general anxiety disorder. But when you take a look here, you're going to see that 39 million American adults suffer from panic attacks, panic disorder, or PTSD. Yet our TAM is only 18 million, and that represents the official diagnosed population within the United States and the American adults. So, but from there, what we believe is that roughly 80% of the patients that are suffering from these disorders will actually have a successful clinical outcome using our device called FreeSpira, because they suffer from the underlying physiological cause of breathing dysfunction that's caused by CO2 hypersensitivity, which is where a unique mechanism of action comes into play and addresses. So this represents an $18 billion market opportunity for FreeSpira. So I think what's really incredible about the digital therapeutic landscape, and especially one like FreeSpira, is we're pulling together the three key stakeholders in healthcare. So where our product sits in the center is we're pulling together the payers, which represents the health insurance plans, the clinicians, which are the doctors that are prescribing a lot of this different medications and treating patients, and then actually the patient itself. As you can see, I think as we frame this right, and access to healthcare is really important to me. It's one of my key mission statements for this organization. We talk about gaps in access to care, but let's frame it appropriately. Currently in the United States, 60% of the counties in the country do not have a single psychiatrist to service that county. So access to care in those counties is not about a 6-month waiting list. It's that there's no access to a behavioral health specialist to help those individuals. That's where a product like FreeSpira can come in and help bridge that gap, to give them access to quality care in the comfort of their own home. We are an FDA-cleared 28-day at-home treatment that the patient will do twice per day, 17 minutes per day. We actually help patients not only overcome the barriers to access to care, but also the stigma associated with mental health that's still very pronounced within the US, as well as given certain cultures. And at the end of the day, we're providing them an opportunity to actually get access to a new treatment modality if they could not take medications, do not want to take medications, or didn't feel that psychotherapy was appropriate for them. This is just a great slide to demonstrate our commercial progression thus far. Over the last couple of years, you can see here, we've actually accessed the commercial payer landscape with Highmark, and recently we launched Point32 Health. We actually have incredible success in the managed Medicaid marketplace with very strong adherence and good clinical outcomes. And then obviously the government represented by the VA DoD. We look at success in terms of commercial success in two pathways. So it's not just about bringing on new payers and expanding the number of customers you have, but your ability to actually penetrate deeper within the current customers that you have. And we've actually demonstrated our ability to consistently expand our contracts with our payer clients in every single facet. So the first was Highmark. If you take a look here in 2018, we only had access to about 1.5 million member lives in the state of Pennsylvania. Within 12 months, they expanded us to West Virginia and Delaware, and then they added our secondary indication of PTSD in 2019 as well. Course is a managed Medicaid plan in Wisconsin. We had a 500 patient contract in place in less than 7 months based on the clinical outcomes and the success of the members that have engaged with the program. They actually expanded us within to include an additional 1,000 patients. And then lastly, here's a Security Health Plan. We launched in that plan in August of 2022. We only had access to about 90,000 members in the commercial and Medicaid landscape. Within a short period of time, we actually expanded into Medicare Advantage, and then they actually expanded us again in less than a year into their total employee benefit population, which now we doubled, so it's almost 200,000 members. The reason I highlight this is because the success of the program and the ability to expand these contracts is really based upon not just achieving clinical outcomes, but their members are coming back to them and sharing with them the successful experience they had with our program. As with any new healthcare technology, as you're trying to build new pathways, there's a lot of barriers. For us, the difference is we're actually touching patients. Our touch points are significantly greater than you're going to see with any other type of healthcare technology. So if you compare us to, say, the pharmaceutical world, they never really actually touch the patient in any direct capacity. We're actually owning the patient experience for the full 28 days that you're using FreeSpira. So if you take a look here, our engagement rate is really important. The first step is identifying and outreach to the appropriate members in that health plan that will benefit from FreeSpira. The second piece is, can you successfully engage them? We've got a 47% member engagement rate, and our ability to convert 15% of those that engage with us into actual FreeSpira patients in year one is incredibly high. When you compare us to other types of mental health programs out there, like the Gingers and Lears of the world, they're hitting about a 3% member engagement rate. I'm sorry, 3% member enrollment rate. We're actually, more than 5 times that, which speaks to the value of our program and engaging patients. The second piece where we're seeing a lot of trouble is invoicing and distribution. A lot of digital health companies that are in our category, the digital therapeutic world, are struggling with how to distribute the product. We're the only digital therapeutic company that's HQAA certified. So we have the ability to invoice health plans directly and then distribute directly to the patient. So we don't have to contract with a third-party distributor, which would normally take 20 to 30% of the revenue. And we're capable of doing value-based purchasing programs, which means we can go at risk with the health plan based around delivering not just a successful clinical outcome, but achieving very specific cost reductions for their members. So what is FreeSpira and what do we do? If you take a look here, you can see that this is an actual representation of what the patient is going to receive at home. The tablet is an off-the-shelf tablet, but included in that is our proprietary algorithm. The white piece is the IP technology, that's our sensor, and then the patient's going to wear a nasal cannula during the treatment. What we're doing is we're grabbing breath-by-breath measurements and we're transposing onto the tablet so the patient can visualize their exhaled CO2 rate coupled with respiration rate. We are an at-home treatment, like I mentioned earlier, twice a day, 17 minutes a day that the patient utilizes this treatment. Here's really important. There's three key ingredients to our success. And the first is, this is an actual patient that went through. And you can see day one, they're going to go through, and what they can see immediately is they can see the exhaled CO2 rate versus respiration rate. And you can see the erratic nature of it. We also provide them nominal level. So if you look here, 13 is what the actual respiration rate should be if you have normalized breathing, and your exhaled CO2 rate would be about 40. This is important because it crystallizes for the patient in that moment. This makes sense to me because I am experiencing very physical symptoms, which drives them to the emergency department as opposed to seeking a behavioral health specialist in terms of treating this. The second key to our success is the early onset of action. The middle panel here, you can see treatment at 7 days. The patient's not only feeling better, but they're visualizing improvement in their breathing patterns represented by exhaled CO2 and respiration rate. It creates another engagement piece to keep the patient motivated to continue to do the treatment. And then at the end of the 4-week session, you can see this patient achieves an optimal outcome with normalized breathing across both metrics. The third piece of our success is a coach. We pair every patient with a coach over the 28 days. They've got 5 critical touch points with the patient. Day one, they help the patient unbox the system, set it up, and walk them through their first session. All of our devices are Wi-Fi enabled. So each week, the coach will look at the patient's previous 7-day treatments. They will then talk to the patient specifically about what went on. Our coaches are more, I like to call them Sherpas. They're guiding them towards a successful outcome. They're not practicing any type of therapy or medicine or any type of medical practice. They're just helping the patient stay focused on the treatment and giving them kind of an attaboy or attagirl. You're right on track and you're doing great. Keep with the program. So our FreeSpira solution we started, the key of our entire program is appropriate patient identification and targeting. We actually do something very unique. We get 3 years of claims data from the payer across their entire membership. We then go back to them. We run it through our proprietary claims analytics tool where we go back to them and say, okay, of your entire membership population, these are the patients that are both diagnosed and undiagnosed based on the algorithm that we put forth. To put that in perspective, for a 100,000 member plan, it's going to be somewhere between 7,800 and 8,000 members will actually be potential candidates for FreeSpira via diagnosed or undiagnosed for panic or PTSD. We then go back and we rate the patients based on impactability across 3 key metrics: ability to deliver clinical outcomes, cost savings, and then we're building characteristics based on previous patients that we've treated to identify the best patients to engage with that will go through and have a successful clinical outcome. The second piece is we will actively do direct member outreach in conjunction with the health plan. Everything we do is co-branded, so we're sending marketing materials to the patients directly at their home via email, direct mail, or SMS to encourage them to come forth and engage with us in the program. We then do the 28-day treatments. At the end of the 28 days, the patients then put the system back in a box and ship it back to us where we can refurbish it and then utilize it for another patient. And we're billing the health plan immediately upon shipping. And then the last piece is the most important piece for the health plans. We conduct quarterly business reviews with them where we're sharing with them aggregated clinical outcomes for their patient population that went through the FreeSpira program. And then twice a year, we do specific cost savings analysis based on the members that came through, utilizing the claims data that they provided us so that they can see within that specific population exactly the cost savings that they're achieving. Okay. If you take a look here, if you could advance one more, please. This is critical to this. So it's not just that we get great clinical outcomes at the end of the 28 days. So if you look here, patients that came into this clinical trial, this is panic disorder. You can see that they were all in the moderate to severe range. A score of 14 to 16 puts them as moderate to severe in terms of symptomology for panic attacks. At the end of the 28 days, you can see that all of them achieved significant reduction in symptoms, which dropped them below the 6 measure. And at 12 months, with no additional FreeSpira engagement, you can see that the vast majority of these patients actually experienced continued reduction in symptoms or improvement in symptoms. Highmark did our first economic outcome research trial, and we can see here on the right, cost reductions, 35% reductions at 12 months in total medical costs, with a 65% reduction in emergency department cost utilization. This is important because these are hard costs. That's important to health plans. You can skip to the real world. Next one, please. So in our real world trial, and I think this is what really drives a lot of engagement with us with the health plans, you can see here that in just shy of 1,600 patients that we followed in real world, we saw a 41% reduction in PCL5 survey scores, which is the measurement for symptoms of PTSD, and a 50% reduction in PDSS scores. The reason this is important is because it mimics our clinical trials, which gives the payers much more confidence in our product to be utilized in their membership. But the adherence piece is what's really important. We had a 75% global patient adherence. What that means is that comparatively to medications in most populations, where you're going to see about a 40 to 50% adherence rate at best, we're seeing a significantly greater adherence rate, which means that patients will complete the treatment, experience the benefits, and have the long-term durable impact that we spoke about. You can go to the next slide too, please. So we're looking to raise $15 million this round. We have a proven commercial model that we've demonstrated across Medicaid, Medicare Advantage, and the commercial landscape. Our goal is to now build upon that foundation, expand our commercial operations, investing in sales and marketing predominantly, and then obviously investing in our patient operations so that we can scale up. We believe we can achieve break even in less than 18 months with this next investment round. Thank you.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
So you've been entrepreneur before, or?
So it's my second startup. It was in another mental health startup in a novel technology, building out like a new pathway for treatment for patients.
Have we reached out to any of them, or?
Yeah, we've spoken to a lot of them. The challenging thing with the mental health VC marketplace is where they're investing. A lot of the investment has been more in the digital, like app wellness apps piece. So like the Calms of the world, where they're not necessarily a therapeutic option, but it's a wellness piece that they can actually go out and, go direct to the consumer and pay a couple dollars a month to have access to this app and on the phone.
Right. And so right now, who's the payer for this?
The payers are going to be large insurance companies. So we actually go to after each payer individually. So Aetna, United Healthcare, Blue Cross Blue Shield plans, they're the ones that we're going after. We're contracting specifically with them so that they will make this a covered benefit for the members in their population that they manage. And then obviously the government.
So you'll provide the service to insurance companies that you already have lined up?
We do have a small cash pay business, but it's, the price point's probably a little bit outside of what patients would be willing to pay. Yes.
What are the unit economics of the 28 days of margin?
Yeah, so our gross margins, because we factor in the coaches, it's accelerated, but we will be at, this year, we'll probably be around the 65% gross margin range. So the first unit's going to cost, say, roughly $1,500, but we can get about 15 to 20 utilizations out of that with minor refurbishment and pushing it out. So our per unit cost, including the wraparound coach piece, is going to be roughly around $350 per unit.
Got it. And then patient, the hope is that they only use their course once and never have to use it again.
Yeah, so it's less than 0.5% of patients have come back to us and asked us to use the device for a second time. They don't need to use it again. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so we've got patents around two things. The sensor that you saw earlier, we've got IP surrounding that. More importantly, though, we recently got a patent on the PTSD treatment program itself, because nobody else has that to protect us from anybody else trying to steal that from us. So panic disorder we couldn't get because we licensed that from Stanford, but the PTSD piece, because we developed it separately and got a separate indication for it, we now have a patent around the entire process that we put forth around that. Yes.
It's really a huge social problem. Are there any other questions? There are other indications, other social problems, drug addiction, other things like that.
Yeah, so we're not looking into the substance use disorder directly, but indirectly, a lot of PTSD patients will actually self-medicate through that. So if we can actually treat patients earlier on, we do know that we can actually potentially eliminate that. Where we're focused now directly is we're investigating now the opportunity to expand into other anxiety disorders like social anxiety disorder, which is huge, and then general anxiety disorder. Outside of that, we've actually done some small, we call QIP, quality improvement programs. There's a direct correlation in other breathing disorders like asthma and obstructive sleep apnea, where we've actually seen so obstructive sleep apnea is an interesting one. 50% of patients will stop using the device within the first 60 days because the fear of wearing the mask, it creates claustrophobia or anxiety attacks. We actually saw a 40% re-engagement in CPAP after using our device for those that actually disengaged the CPAP system, which is an area that we're exploring with the VA now.
Is the 28 days really about habit formation and taking advantage of somebody who really is?
It's part of it, but it's also you're actually, like, think about this, your entire life you've been breathing, creating this dysfunction because CO2 hypersensitivity, you're not getting enough CO2 in your body. So if you stop and think about it this way, if you used to have a panic attack specifically, they would tell you to breathe into a paper bag so you would actually get CO2 back into your body. We're actually training people to breathe completely differently. Think about mouth breathers versus mouth breathers versus nose breathers, right? Trying to change somebody in the way they breathe and the patterns in which they breathe is very uniquely different and challenging. So it's helping them build this new skill set so that they can avoid, as they hit highly anxious periods in their life where it sets a trigger off and that would actually push them into a panic attack or the physical symptoms of PTSD. You're training them so that when they hit those highly anxious periods, they can actually make sure they're breathing their way through it, because that hypersensitivity creates something called air hunger, and that's what then they actually start breathing shallower. They're getting less CO2 in their body, and it creates the process of where they actually start experiencing the symptoms.
Yeah, I think social media creates a lot of anxiety. I
I
mean, anybody who has kids knows that, right?
Yes.
No, I mean, there's a high suicide rate of kids, of some kids caused by social media, right? Where I think that people say is that when you were growing up in the United States in the past, if you made a mistake in grade school or high school, it wasn't recorded, but now it's out there for posterity. I mean, there was an incident of a girl who committed suicide in New Jersey who was beat up by some people in high school, and the recording went out online, and a whole bunch of people texted her and said they were going to beat her up too. And then she committed suicide. So I mean, it's very real. It's kind of insane, right? So
Yeah, suicidality, unfortunately, now is the second leading cause of death in the adolescent population. It's
right,
frightening.
yeah, it really is. Yeah,